I am hoping we're live. Here we go. And we are live. This is Travis from Carter Cal Capital, helping you fight for your financial freedom throughout the overall Forex market. Hope everybody's doing very well on this Monday evening. Hopefully everybody ends up doing very well on their trading day. This was a pretty good trading day. I'm not even gonna front with you based off of what we ended up looking at earlier during the morning. I was kind of worried. Um, But the market really kind of played itself out. You know, typically that Sunday to Monday trade is always a very good trade to be able to get into, whether it's a up or a downwards position. But okay, as we go through and get everything else situated, I want everybody to be able to know a couple things. One, I have to refresh every time that I end up clicking onto the screen. Evidently, what's happening with the system is that it's getting kind of glitchy when it comes down to how it's being able to place out news or place out any information. So what I'm going to end up doing is this. I'm going to end up basically taking all messages and everything else like that from the actual Discord that we end up having for this overall group. I'm sending everybody the free link to be able to go inside and be able to communicate with us when it comes down to live. It'll probably be better for me to be able to see your messages and everything else like that from that position first before being able to do anything else like that. So if you are a part of the Trade with Travis Discord that we end up having for this group, please make sure that you end up going into that message and being able to go in. We'll be talking through the technical stuff information, which will end up being the live chart that we end up having and being able to go from there. So once again, make sure that you end up placing that into the technical stuff information. I will actually end up creating another I'll create another group when it comes down to that. But for right now, just for the sake of being able to do it, everyone that ends up getting signed in will end up being a part of the farm. And if you are a part of the farm, then that means that obviously once you end up going inside of the farm, go to the technical stuff information, and you can be able to see everything when it comes down to your overall messages. So for the people, OG people that end up doing it, make sure that you drop in, make sure that you end up dropping in the comments saying, hey, and everything else like that. For the new people, they end up signing in and being able to go through and getting everything else done from that. Make sure that you end up dropping in and say, hey, from there. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm not a CTA, so I'm not going to tell you whether to buy or to sell. What I'm going to do is teach you education. And from that education, you can be able to make your own informed decision. Now, understand that trading involves risk. There's a risk of being able to make money. Also, there's risk of being able to lose money. So please keep that in mind. And understand that past performance is not indicative of future results, which means that if you end up making money yesterday, it's not promised that you're going to end up making money today. So as we go through and take a look at everything that ended up happening today, once again, I am going to end up taking a look at the live chat and everything else like that. But I am going to say, hey, if you want to be able to make sure that you ensure that I see your messages, please make sure that you end up going to the Launchpad and being able to sign up to the community Discord so I can be able to see them as soon as you end up placing in that message. It makes it a little bit easier for me to be able to see it. And obviously, I don't have to keep on refreshing my screen and go from there. Let's see. Please send your messages through our Discord so don't have to refresh often. Messages should be technical stuff. There we go. Okay, so there we go. Gonna reload. We're gonna reload the page. There we go. Steve, what's going on? Hope everything's going well. We'll take a look at what's going on with the overall pages and everything else like that. But Steve, kind of like what ended up happening before, messages are kind of shaky at this particular point. So I would like to be able to send most of the messages through the Discord and be able to go from there. Obviously, I know you have your feelings about being able to place your messages through there. If you do place your messages inside of the live chat, then I try to read those off as fast as possible. So let's talk about what ended up happening today. Today might be a quick session overall because I don't think there's really no live trade to be able to take, but we'll talk in general. Today, what ended up happening was that consumer price index came out for the New Zealand dollar, and we ended up having RBA meeting minutes that just ended up happening about 30 minutes ago. So we'll see how that kind of affects the Australian dollar. But overall, there really wasn't that much of news when it came down to the overall market from a indices standpoint, and not necessarily a forex standpoint either. Obviously, if we end up going to CNBC, we end up seeing that. We ended up seeing that the market kind of ended up having a little bit of a push. Obviously, there wasn't really that much news overall when it came down to much market movement. Bloomberg really didn't say that much about anything. Forecast recession next 12 months hit 100 below to Biden. Okay, I don't know what that means. Uh, but really and truthfully, that really wasn't much, um, really much really wasn't much news to be able to pay attention to. There's one thing that I do like to be able to see right here is the Asian size rocks after UK reversal. I do want to see that because obviously we talked about what's happening with the Japanese yen and being able to see how far the markets actually end up dropping. Now we have to be able to keep that in mind when it comes down to our movement of being able to take advantage of movements like that and be able to make movement from there. XPEV, see the future about more drops. Earnings will come about in about a month. I remember you talking about that before. We'll definitely take a look at that, see, as we end up going through. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and go into the big three. Let's see what ended up happening with those. If you're not familiar with the big three is the United States dollar index. We end up taking a look at gold. We end up taking a look at oil. The reason why we take a look at those is because it allows us to be able to understand what's going on with pretty much every market based off of those three pairs and being able to get better ideas about how the market's actually moving. So earlier this morning, this was my thought process, and we end up going through and talking about that overall. But overall, what the thought process was when it came down to the movement was that from a weekly perspective, we knew that the weekly has hit a daily de-extension, um, which was at 143. From there, or we knew that the weekly ended up hitting the daily, the extension, but the daily actually started being able to push and starting to show that there was a better chance of it being able to push up and possibly be able to get up to 153. Now, you've been a part of any one of these live system or live strategy times that we end up talking about. We talk about how if the market only retraced to the 236 when it comes down to a retracement from a retracement to an extension, then more than likely what will happen is that it will probably end up having a little bit of struggle being able to break past the 127. Now, what ended up happening today was that the market actually ended up having a little bit of hesitation, and then after that, obviously, we're seeing more of an evening star actually start to happen when it comes down to this movement as well. From an hourly standpoint, we're seeing that the market is kind of tailing off. This is to me personally, one of those times to where I will almost look forward to being able to take some type of risk off of this move. The reason why I say that is because the market has broken the inner trend line. Based off of the market breaking the inner trend line, we see that we only have about 26 to 27 pips worth of overall risk that we're basically risking at this particular moment. And we know that the daily's in the sell zone. We know that the weekly's in the sell zone. We know that we're at the 127. Um, we have a counter trend line break that we can be able to focus in on based off of the 2 hour. There's a lot of stuff that we can be able to say that, hey, maybe the market may not be ready to be able to fully, maybe fully able to truly go to the downside, but we got the weekly in the sell zone, we have the daily in the sell zone, and there's a transition trade that's about to happen at some point in time when it comes down to this movement. So for me, and I'm just thinking out loud because I have to be able to prove that I'm ready to be able to make a move off of this and be totally okay with it. We have a counter trend line break. We had a retest. The market ended up breaking again. The market's at 148. We end up saying from the daily, the 127 or the new up move will probably end up being the area where it fall. We do have a little bit of a U-turn that we can be able to take advantage of, and we only have to risk a little bit on being able to take it. Now, from a weekly perspective, and really from a daily perspective, there's truly no U-turn off of this. This is truly speculative when it comes down to being able to make a move like this. Most people probably wouldn't make this move. I don't know if I am going to end up making a move, to be honest, but we do know that the market, when it ends up falling, it ends up giving us a counter trend line break that we can be able to go after. It ends up making a 32 pip move, and We know that the weekly on the United States dollar index is a little bit towards the downside to where we could be able to take advantage of it. So might be one of those situations where we might be looking at sale positions on US yen for us being able to get in if we have an opportunity. The 15 minutes in the buy zone, so I'm going to wait on that. And I know we just talked about the US yen for its overall movement, but that kind of plays into what we were talking about when it comes down to the United States dollar index, right? United States dollar index as a whole, from a weekly perspective, pushed up from this overall movement. The weekly now has went up to the 127 and started to consolidate. We take a look at it from a daily perspective. We see that the daily is basically at the top of resistance at this particular point, and we can see that the market um, has a chance of being able to, as long as it stays inside this overall area, could fall all the way down to at least 13,295 before really having some type of hesitation when it comes down to any type of move. So I like what I see based off of both of them. And this might be one of those situations where you might want to take a little bit of a risk if you are having that appetite for us being able to take a move like that. So US yen, um, we can see US Swiss franc end up making a movement to the downside. We end up seeing US yen end up making a movement to the downside. We just seen some information about the Asian stocks kind of having a little bit of advantage based off of that. It wouldn't surprise me to be able to see that after the next 15 minutes that the market tries to push back up just a little bit, and then after that try to break the movement to the downside. So I don't know. I think that I might be a seller on this one, and at least try to be able to take a chance off of this. You rarely do you see much opportunities that you can be able to take advantage of when it comes down to this movement. But keep in mind, in October is typically push month. So we done had a push pretty much all year, and now we're going into the fourth quarter. Maybe the United States dollar might be ready to be able to have a little bit of a U-turn when it comes down to that movement. Just keep that in mind. Overall, once again, I'm not telling you to be able to jump in right now, but I think I might end up looking at being able to take some type of a risk off of this movement. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and set up a trading opportunity. Let's see what it looks like. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to end up staying that way, but might end up taking some type of opportunity and being able to see what that looks like. Let's see. Got the chart. Let's go. Positions our calculator. Question is, where's this thing going to go? That's always the weird part when you end up taking a trade like this. Because there's really no fractal to be able to work off of. There's really no U-turn to be able to work off of either. Okay, let's try this out. Here we go. If I'm wrong, then I'll be wrong by a little bit. If I'm right, then Lord knows it might be the trade of the year when it comes down to Forex pairs. Here we go. Short. My short is going to end up being above. Well, let's talk about take profit first. Take profit, I'm going to say 140, 140, 170. Am I saying that this is going to get there tomorrow? No. Keep this in mind. This is one of those long-term type of ideas and examples to where if it works out, then great. If it doesn't, then I lost a little bit. Stop loss. We got a fractal high. That's at 149.08. So I'm going to say, see if this thing can be able to hold. Give it a little bit of room. $149.30. I need to see what was the daily 382. mean, not daily 382, daily 127. Daily 127 is at 140. Get that out the way. Okay, jeez. I got 148.86. So anything above that, I think would be okay. 149.30 will end up being my stop loss. Risk reward will end up being risk reward is 1 to 17. Once again, it's worth trying to it. Roger can't see our tweets in real time. You have to refresh the other window, see it at the same time. If you have any questions, yeah, place it inside the Discord. Obviously, if I can be able to see your message as soon as you end up placing it inside the Discord. Something's going on with trading views messages. But Roger, I hope everything's going well with you. Always good to be able to talk to you. Place in what you want to be, what you want me to be able to take a look at as well. I would say that I want to risk a high percentage, but I really don't. This is truly just a chance on being able to do that. I'm going to go 3% of my account. Uh, 2%. Once again, there's no guarantee that this is going to happen. There's no guarantee that this was the top of the overall move. And once again, we don't have any type of analysis to be able to say that the market is ready to be able to fall either, aside from having an inner trend line break when it comes down to this movement. So please keep that in mind. But I'm a risk taker. I've always been one. It's never failed me. I mean, I've never seen a trade that I didn't like, especially if it made sense to be able to make a move off of that. So locking myself in. There we go. 140. I got 148.84. Stop loss 149.30. Take profit. I got 141.70. 141.70. Essentially, what I'm saying is, market breaks the inner trend line. We'll start moving towards this. We'll go back to the daily. Market breaks the inner trend line break off the 2 hour. We got a early one when it comes down to that. Will start to gravitate toward the outer once it ends up happening. This is a early move, so please keep in mind that, quite frankly, this is truly speculative when it comes down to being able to make a move like that. Okay, so there we go. All right, so we'll get off of that one. Let's go ahead and go oil. I'm going to speed up a little bit because it took a little bit too long off of that one. Oil. Thought process was that I think that oil needs to drop down a little bit more. I was looking at 82 something to be able to get in. I think it was like 82.40. Weekly is showing that we end up having this morning star when it came down to movement. Typically after a morning star, you end up seeing the candlesticks basically end up retesting that overall movement and giving you an opportunity to be able to try to see if you can be able to get in one move. Currently right now, we still have a few more days of this market truly kind of falling before being able to make any type of movement off of this one. Let's go U.S. oil right here. Let's see. There we go. From a daily perspective, I still think 82.40 would probably be the landing spot. Well, 82. What did I have? Oh, I'm sorry, 82. Well, basically 83. 83 is basically the landing spot that I think that the market could be able to make its U-turn when it comes down to movement at this particular point. We got a few more days to be able to let this one kind of play out. I'm going to let it play out until it breaks the counter trend line break. Once it breaks the counter trend line break, then I'm in, and I'm probably going to be in for the rest of the year when it comes down to this movement. So I'm just going to wait and see how the market kind of plays out, but there's really no move on oil yet. Gold. Gold. We end up talking about how the market ended up breaking below 1660. I said that if it failed, then it's going to go back to that same position where we end up getting out at 1615. The United States dollar right now, there's really no fear to be able to see what's happening when it comes down to the movement. There's no economic news to be able to kind of satisfy the overall movement as well. I talked about how we end up seeing like this rising wedge, and I expected for the market to be able to fall. That did happen. So you end up getting in at that 1664 area and end up placing in your stop loss above that 1685 area. Currently, right now, you are in profit. For the people that didn't feel comfortable like that, including me, now wait for the counter trend line break based off of this movement once it gets into the sell zone. Then after that, I will be more comfortable being able to take this trade. So something like this, then after that it falls, and now you can be able to get into it. Currently, right now, really nothing to be able to do as of yet, but that will be the overall play for us being able to get in if the market does make a movement off of that. Okay. Now, keep in mind, if the Japanese yen is going to get stronger, then that means that gold is going to end up going up. Okay. So as I'm looking at it right here, I can see natural resistance be meshed right there and natural support be meshed right there. So we may end up seeing that the market may end up trying to push back up to that 1668 area before being able to make any type of movement from there. That's more the reason why I am going to stay away until I end up getting true news about what's going to happen with this movement overall. So gold, going to stay away. Gold is going to stay away. All right. So got done with those. Let's go ahead and jump into the trades that we end up taking today. Obviously, inside of the live session during the morning, I ended up saying that it was too early to be able to make a decision on what was going to happen with the move, and I said that obviously just pay attention to what we end up talking about inside of the Discord, so you can kind of get a better thought process on what was going to end up happening. So I'm going to talk about where we left off today, and then after that, I'm going to talk about what ended up happening, and then it makes a little bit more sense when it comes down to that movement. From a daily perspective, the market is basically starting a U-turn from that consolidation low that we end up having at 28,615. When the market ended up breaking below 28,615, then after that, it started to be able to push back up. The market has hesitated right around 30,400, and it has gotten to that area a couple times without truly being able to break out of that area before. So when we end up looking at it based off of the 15-minute earlier this morning, I end up noticing that I end up getting placed inside of a buy trade based off of my automation system right here in this area. Market ended up pushing up. Then after that, got real stagnant from here and made basically a bear flag to be able to get in. Now, what I ended up sending to everybody inside of the Discord was that, hey, look for this counter trend line break. If the market ends up breaking up to the upside, then we have an opportunity of being able to get in based off of this movement. If it did break off and be able to get in based off of that movement, we end up talking about that instead of having this small consecutive consolidation, that was a larger consolidation overall that we end up having from the 30,400 area all the way down to the 28,640 area. And typically in October, you're going to see a little bit more of a push when it comes down to overall movement and more of a trending style of market that you want to be able to get into and be able to work off of that. So that was the move that I was interested in being able to go from there. DJ Fresh, thanks for the invite, bro. TV notification, it's a special sign on my shifts. Thought it was Manic 15 bounce out of bed. 3 a.m. in Spain. Nice. Didn't know you could do trading view video streams, but I love it. Got to go to work. Okay. Nice. DJ, we'll talk. We'll definitely talk in the morning because it is 3 a.m. in Spain. But definitely, thanks for being able to pop in. I do appreciate that. So my thought process was this, and this is what I said inside of our group. Let me see if I can give. I want to be able to show up for social proof. It's always cool to be able to show for social proof. I end up saying right here, everyone, hey, we have an alert that we want to be able to get into based off of this movement. We have a good chance of being able to do it, and we want to be able to get out of it when the market ends up hitting the top of resistance at 30,440, I believe. And from that overall movement, market ended up pushing up, gave us a large push up to the upside. At first, got all the way up to 30,300. Then after that, started the U-turn. Took profits out when we ended up getting to this point. And then after that, when the market fell all the way down, basically turning past resistance into a future support, end up getting back into it again based off of right here in this overall movement. And as of about an hour ago, market ended up hitting take profit. So bam, if you end up taking that one, then that pretty much paid for your premium membership. There it is right there. That's paid for about 2 months of premium memberships for people that are part of the overall elite and everything else like that. But congratulations if you end up seeing that trade. I know obviously we end up taking that one after hours of the Trade with Travis morning session, but super excited for everyone that ended up getting into that trade. Hold on for a second. My dog is barking because I got him inside of the bathroom real quick. Yes. He's not even a puppy. He's 12 years old, but he's the biggest little ankle biter you've ever seen. Dude, hush. So there we go. End up hitting that move. That was the biggest move of the day when it came down to movement. End up getting out about 400 pips when it came down to that movement. Typically, that's kind of about the movement that you're gonna end up seeing kind of in these overall times. To be honest, uh, just because we're in fourth quarter and typically there's more people trading in this area. The market is way more active. We end up talking about October and being able to get prepared for the October push all year. And being able to take advantage of it. So markets at resistance, there's really no trade to be able to talk about right now because we got to see where this built up resistance or built up consolidation is going to end up being. My guess is probably going to end up being right here. We end up having support right in when it comes down to that position. I'm saying 29,700 will probably end up being that area. If that is the consolidation support, if the market falls down to the consolidation support right here, if we go based off what ended up happening last year and the year before that and everything else like that, if it falls down to that position and it ends up popping up, it will probably never hit that position until the end, and probably until another time, 6-7 months down the line, or kind of like what ended up happening this year, a full year of overall movement down the line. If this is the retracement, okay, so overall, there's about another 800 points of overall movement if the market does fall down to that point. Am I interested in selling? Nah, you can make a case to be able to sell. But currently, right now, I'm going to sit on my hands. I'm going to see what happens. Let's see. So that is US 30. I'm going to talk about the last trade that we ended up taking, which was NAS 100, and we're going ahead and cancel out today and keep it moving. We'll work in the morning. NAS 100. Plan was a little bit quicker than that. Nas didn't build out the same type of consolidation points that I was looking for to be truly invested in staying in when it comes down to that movement. So from a daily perspective, market end up market is in a R3. There's a good chance that if the market does fall, it could fall all the way down to 91.82, but I don't think that that's going to happen. Overall, it's really not that much doom and gloom. We end up having in bullish engulfing candle that end up happening from there. After that, the market end up starting to retrace. Essentially, we end up seeing a large channel or a smaller channel in this movement. And currently, right now, I think that we're seeing a little bit more of a larger channel that's starting to build up overall. No, I'm not going to call that a channel yet. But broken counter trend line break. We take a look at what's happening when it comes down to the day. When it comes down to the hourly. My thought process at 6 o'clock was this. One, we see that the market was kind of going into support, kind of broke the counter trend line break to the upside. When we end up looking at it at 6, the market was right here when it came down to that movement. I talked about my automation systems end up triggering me into a trade. I'm actually currently in one last position on that trade. End up getting in at 10,855. And then after that, started to be able to make his movement when it came down to breaking out of that overall area. Currently, right now, from a 15-minute perspective, what we end up talking about and what we end up sending over to everybody inside of our overall Discord group was that I end up seeing that same bullish flag when it came down to movement. I was interested in being able to get into the trade, but uh, my thought process was that, hey, let's get out at this high volume node peak right here at this point, um, right around at 10,940, and be able to get out of that position safely. And then after that, I allow my automation systems to be able to play out the rest of the move. Market ended up breaking out, ended up pushing all the way up here. Currently, right now, we have two positions that have ended up hitting the top right here. Currently, we see a top right there. I think I might go ahead and pull the money that I have off of this one. It's a 300-point move, and typically when the market ends up having a big movement like that, typically you end up having an even bigger retracement. So I am going to take this one right now. Bam, cashed out on that move when it came down to that, but that's a 300-point move when it came down to that movement. But what we ended up saying was that we wanted to be able to get out at 10,947. Market did not hesitate one bit after breaking that counter trend line break, pushing up, gave us 88 points when it came down to that movement. Another good move for the win when it came down to that. So super excited when it came down to everyone that ended up doing that. For the people that were a part of the elite, actually ended up getting that signal when it came down to all of the information that we ended up having. Once again, for social proof, being able to pull that back up. This was what we ended up posting out on the US 30. Or let's go before that. What was it before? Right here. We ended up catching it right when the market ended up breaking towards the overall upside and ended up pushing that movement all the way up to the top, closed out on half of the position right there, let the other position ride when it came down to that movement. So always good to be able to get that stuff done. Always good to be able to kind of show that obviously we're building out the community, and the whole community, what we're trying to do is make sure that everybody ends up winning and being able to keep everybody informed when it comes down to that position. The only way that you can be able to do that, obviously, sometimes is being able to have constant communication. And y'all do a very good job of being able to communicate through the live streams. So I want to make sure that I end up doing a good job of being able to ensure that we continue the communication overall when it comes down to that movement. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. There's really no trades to be able to take aside from the US yen trade. We ended up taking that one just earlier. Currently, right now, actually up on this move. So that's a good thing. We want to make sure that we end up taking a look at this real quick. Let me take a look at this real quick before we get out of here. We end up doing USD pairs. Now, if this is moving like this, and that means to me that the Australian United States dollar is probably going to end up making a move as well. But just keep in mind that the Japanese yen was the pair that ended up getting hit the most. So if that's the pair that ended up getting hit the most, that's the one that I'm going to take a little bit more of an advantage of when it comes down to being able to trade it overall. Let's see. What they end up saying based off of that was that we wanted to 15-minute, got a counter trend line break when it came down to movement, forced its overall inner trend line, which is a long-term inner trend line. And then after that, seeing this market kind of push towards the outer trend line. I got to adjust these lines. That is terrible. Hold on for a second. All right. Okay, bam. The guys over at MTI would kick my tail if I end up showing them this the way that I have it like this. Okay, you're trying to scout and give you a couple positions before we get out of here. So, at the counter trend line break. The first area where I would look at being able to take partial profit if you don't truly believe in the move will be somewhere around here. I say 147.60. After that happens, and after that, you can use your fibs and kind of figure out how the market's kind of moving. Contacts are kind of messing with me. And then after that, obviously, we talked about the market kind of moving overall and going towards this area for the outer trend line, which means that it will blast through the consolidation and be able to fall down to the support at 141.70 for that position. Now, whether if I'm right or I'm wrong, I'm only risking about 40 something pips when it comes down to the position. I'm only risking 2% of the account, and it's a 1 to 17 risk reward ratio if it does work out. So let's try it. I have no problem being a risk taker when it comes down to a move like this. All right. You like what I end up doing? Please make sure that you end up clicking on that boost button. I do appreciate everybody ends up doing this, doing that. If you'd like to be able to continue the conversation, make sure that you end up jumping inside of our free portion of our Discord group and being able to get a lot more information when it comes down to that. If you'd like to be able to know what we're doing for being able to pass prop forms and everything else like that, or at least being able to try when it comes down to our automation systems and everything else like that, consider being able to join the premium portion of it, where we end up having trade signals, private books and everything, private and public books that we end up having, being able to have a lot more freedom when it comes down to being able to have more communication, and also indicators and expert advisors. They end up going out each and every Monday and Thursday. And remember, after every 5 new people that end up joining either the elite or the inner circle, then you end up having an opportunity to be able to get more expert advisors and everything else like that you can be able to use overall. Like always, make sure that you end up planning your trade and trading your plan. Everyone, I see each and every one of y'all in the morning, Lord willing. Y'all end up having a good one. Take it easy.